What if the rock legend you idolized was hiding a disturbing secret for decades? How did a 25-year-old superstar convince parents to sign over custody of their teenage daughter? And why are multiple women now stepping forward with eerily similar stories from the 1970s? For 5 decades, Steven Tyler has embodied rock and roll royalty as the legendary frontman of Aerosmith. His powerful vocals and magnetic stage presence made him one of music's most recognizable figures, beloved by millions worldwide. But behind the platinum records and sold-out tours, a troubling chapter from Tyler's past has emerged through recent legal filings that threaten to permanently alter his legacy. In December 2022, a lawsuit filed under California's Child Victims Act sent shockwaves through the music industry. The plaintiff, Julia Misley, formerly known as Julia Holcomb, alleged that Tyler assaulted and emotionally abused her beginning in 1973 when she was just 16 years old and he was in his mid-20s, already achieving fame with Aerosmith. According to court documents, Misley met Tyler after a concert in Portland, Oregon, when a friend helped her gain backstage access. What followed wasn't a brief encounter, but the beginning of a 3-year relationship characterized by what the filing describes as manipulation, control, and exploitation. The lawsuit's filing was made possible by California legislation that opened a 3-year look-back window, allowing victims of childhood abuse to file claims regardless of when the alleged abuse occurred. This temporarily lifted statutes of limitations that would have otherwise prevented such decades-old cases from moving forward. According to court documents and Misley's public statements, what began as a backstage meeting evolved into something far more sinister. A relationship where a teenage fan became legally bound to a rock star more than twice her age. What makes this case particularly unusual is that Tyler himself wrote about this relationship in his 2011 memoir, Does the Noise in My Head Bother You? Though he used the pseudonym Diana rather than Julia's real name, many details aligned with what is now known about his relationship with Misley. In the memoir, Tyler wrote, I almost took a teen bride. Her parents fell in love with me, signed a paper over for me to have custody, so I wouldn't get arrested if I took her out of state. While the memoir presented this relationship through Tyler's romanticized lens, the lawsuit offers a dramatically different perspective, one of alleged exploitation and abuse rather than a rock and roll love story. But here's where the story takes an even darker turn. How did a rock star legally obtain guardianship over a teenage fan? According to court documents, Tyler allegedly convinced Misley's parents to grant him guardianship over their daughter, giving him legal authority to travel with her across state lines and effectively removing her from her family's protection. As noted in reporting on the case, this guardianship aspect is particularly concerning from a legal perspective. It would represent a significant misuse of a legal mechanism intended to protect minors, essentially using it to facilitate continued access to a teenager despite age of consent laws that varied by state. The lawsuit claims that once Tyler had established legal control through this guardianship, he engaged in a pattern of behavior involving providing drugs and alcohol to the teenage girl. The allegations are not merely tabloid gossip. They're formal legal claims backed by court documents, historical accounts, and in some cases, Tyler's own published words. Associated Press reporting on the case confirms these legal proceedings are not merely speculative, but represent formal allegations now working their way through the judicial system. The core claim involves a 25-year-old established rock star allegedly engaging in activity with a 16-year-old fan, a scenario that raises serious questions about consent and coercion, regardless of the era in which it occurred. The lawsuit details allegations that are deeply troubling, especially given the significant age and power differential involved. Among the most serious allegations are claims regarding a pregnancy. According to Misley's account, which has been reported in multiple news outlets covering the lawsuit, she became pregnant while traveling with Tyler on tour when she was 17 years old. The lawsuit alleges that when Tyler learned of the pregnancy, his reaction set in motion a series of events that would have profound and lasting consequences. Misley claims that after a serious apartment fire nearly killed her, Tyler allegedly pressured her to terminate the pregnancy despite her wishes to continue it. According to her account, she was hospitalized after the fire, and while still recovering from smoke inhalation, Tyler allegedly insisted on the abortion, leaving her feeling she had no choice in the matter. Misley, account describes being deeply traumatized by both the relationship with Tyler and the termination of the pregnancy, which she claims was against her wishes and beliefs. The lawsuit seeks to frame these events not as isolated incidents, but as part of an alleged pattern of exploitation and control that began with the initial meeting when Mislay was 16 and continued through their approximately 3-year relationship. The legal action portrays the alleged coerced abortion as a particularly traumatic culmination of this dynamic, involving questions not just of misconduct with a minor, but allegations of reproductive coercion, a form of control that has received increasing recognition in recent years as a serious form of abuse. Steven Tyler has denied these allegations through his legal representatives. His defense team has mounted a multifaceted defense that challenges both the substance of the claims and the legal mechanisms being used to bring decades-old allegations into court. According to reporting from People magazine and other outlets covering the case, Tyler's attorneys have argued that the relationship was consensual, a defense that faces significant scrutiny given Mislay's age at the time and the alleged power dynamics involved. Interestingly, Tyler's attorneys have argued that statements in his own memoir should not be admissible as evidence against him, despite the apparent similarities between the relationship he described with Diana and Mislay's allegations. This creates an unusual legal scenario where an author is essentially arguing against the reliability of his own published work. Tyler's legal team has also challenged the constitutionality of the California Child Victims Act itself, arguing that the law's look-back window unfairly allows for the revival of claims that would otherwise be barred by statutes of limitations. According to reporting from People magazine, Tyler has maintained public silence regarding the specific allegations, neither addressing them in performances nor making statements outside of court filings. This approach aligns with typical legal strategy in high-profile civil cases where defendants are generally advised to avoid making public statements that could potentially be used against them in legal proceedings. People magazine's reporting indicates that the case remains active in the legal system, with both sides continuing to file motions and counter-motions as the litigation progresses. Then came the second bombshell that made everything worse. In November 2023, a second woman filed a lawsuit with eerily similar allegations from the same era. According to court documents reported by ABC News and other major outlets, the second plaintiff, who filed anonymously as Jane Doe, alleges that Tyler assaulted her in 1975 in a New York City hotel room when she was 17 years old. Tyler would have been approximately 27 at the time. The lawsuit claims Tyler used his fame and status to manipulate the teenager into a situation where the alleged assault occurred. The second lawsuit was filed under New York's Adult Survivors Act, which, like California's Child Victims Act, created a temporary window allowing victims to file claims that would otherwise be barred by statutes of limitations. This legal mechanism has enabled numerous high-profile cases against powerful figures across various industries, reflecting a broader societal shift toward accountability for past misconduct. The emergence of multiple accusers with similar allegations from the same time period creates a significantly more challenging legal landscape for Tyler's defense. Both lawsuits involve teenage girls allegedly targeted by the rock star at the height of Aerosmith's early fame. Both describe scenarios where Tyler allegedly used his celebrity status to gain access to young fans despite their status as minors. And both cases involve allegations from the mid-1970s when Aerosmith was achieving mainstream success but had not yet reached the commercial peak they would attain in later decades. As the legal proceedings continue, fans and the music industry are being forced to confront uncomfortable truths about rock's history. Stories once celebrated as rock and roll excess are being retold as accounts of exploitation and abuse. What's changing isn't just legal accountability, but cultural memory itself. This shift in narrative represents a significant cultural reckoning with power, gender, and consent in popular music. Whether these decades-old allegations will result in legal accountability for Steven Tyler remains to be seen as the cases work their way through the judicial system. While Tyler's continued denial of the allegations through his legal team ensures that the ultimate determination of these claims will likely come through the courts rather than through public admission, one thing is certain: the conversation about power, consent, and celebrity in the music industry has fundamentally changed, and there's no going back to an era when such behavior could exist without scrutiny or consequences.